Hello, good evening. I'm Oral Gibbs, and welcome to Oral Gibbs Live. And this is a very special program this evening, a program where we have one guest that's been here many times before and one for the first time. Well, you know this gentleman. It's none other than Mr. Rennie Richardson, and Mr. Rennie Richardson is chairman of the Supervisory Board of Directors for GEBE, and Engineer Maduro is the president of the managing board of GBE. Gentlemen, welcome to the program, both of you.
Thank you, OJ. Thank you very much, Mr. Gibbs, for inviting us.
Well, it's good to have you all here this evening to speak about GBE. I'm going to start first with you, Mr. Richardson, as the chairman of the supervisory board of directors for the company.
That's right, OJ. I was appointed as a board member of GBE the beginning of July 2014. And in this period of 3 months, the shareholder felt it necessary to give me the position of chairman of the board of GBE. And I'm holding that position now from the 30th of September, the 1st of October last year. It's a very hectic job, and I gladly do it for the people of St. Martin, because GEBE is a government-owned company, as we all know. It belongs to the people, it's for the people, and it is working on behalf of the people. Maybe these days things are kind of rough. We try to do some relief for the people, a general relief or 62 plus relief, for the pensioners. But GEBE is on the right track. Do not forget, GEBE before did not belong to St. Martin. It was shared by Sabon Station. Maybe I could remind the people that. But Mr. Maduro, of course, knows the ins and outs better than me on that. And to get GEBE for become sole ownership of St. Martin, of course, we had to pay out Sabon Station their share that they own here in GEBE, which cost us a lot of money. We talk about 40, 50 million guilders that GEBE had to pay out.
So it was already paid out already?
Yes, we did that at the beginning of last year.
Oh, okay.
So, 2014 is going to be a rough year for GEBE because of all that money that we paid out. We had to pay them in cash to buy their shares. They're part of the company. I mean, that's logical. If they're part of the company, we want to buy them out because we were going to split up the companies, and therefore we had to pay them out for their share here. So that's, all went well, and everything is, and plus, we have the companies in Sabon Station, and we do also cooperate with them, and we work with them, and we give them assistance when necessary. But as I said, Mr. Maduro knows the ins and outs better than that, if you wish to continue more on that. But I thank you for inviting us, because I know that you have a lot of very important questions to answer us and queries on behalf of the people. So I think I will rest my case for now and give you the word so Mr. Maduro can say something.
All right, so Mr. Maduro, you were not new to the company. You will tell me that you was the company early before you came on.
Correct. Well, I can elaborate a little more on that. I was appointed Chief Operation Officer the 1st of June 2012, and together with the new Chief Financial Officer, we were the first 2 officers appointed by at that moment in time, Supervisory Board. Our main task was to get the company back on track. There were quite a bit of challenges, but nevertheless, if we look back at the situation now after, you could say, 2.5 years, I believe we are on track with the things that we have to do. As Mr. Richardson brought forward, in 2013 we had a very challenging year, and that was a split up of GEBE. And whereas we had to pay a lot of money going out to Sabon Station. This was no easy task, and we had to do it in such a way that the company didn't go belly up. We're talking about millions. And it was going about good financial planning. As a matter of fact, that payment took place. Besides that, in agreement, it was also stipulated that we should provide Sabon Station with assistance for a period of 6 months, which we did from January last year up to, you could say, ending June of last year. So we, right now, we're 100% St. Martin owned, and we can really focus on I would say, the objectives, the goals of the St. Martin government. And GEBE has a new vision, which I believe we will have the time to elaborate more of that. Besides that, I have worked from 94 to 2003 in the power plant, so I'm very knowledgeable with the production and also with the rest of the organization. And I do believe I also speak the language of the workers, so I can communicate with them, and they have the trust there in order to achieve these challenges that we have.
You know, because GEBE is not an easy company, and there's some rough guys there when it comes to management over the years. I know management has had some difficulty. You know, in the company, being there before help, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Now, you know, I have to say one thing. I got to commend you all after Hurricane Gonzalo, because GEBE did a remarkable job. They stayed on all the time when I didn't even expect it. The electricity stayed on. It never went off where I live. Yeah. I think this is the first time we ever had a hurricane that GEBE just stayed on all the time. Any reason for that, Mr. Maduro?
Well, I believe it's the first thing is good operations, good maintenance. Basically, we were expecting a category, I would say it's a tropical storm. At the latter end, it turned out to be a hurricane category 1, going up to 2. But we, at that moment in time, we still made a decision, we can handle this, and the plant operated during the hurricane. And yes, we had quite a bit of challenges after that, but one thing we did, we set certain targets with together with the supervisory board. 2 weeks after the hurricane, everyone should have electricity. And I believe we have accomplished that, maybe to 98%, but majority had electricity.
And I think this is what, and feel free, both of you, to interject when you feel. After the electricity, because it was so great, as I mentioned, we had electricity, everything else, but that storm came in, really did some damage. Right. And then a lot of people felt, well, you know, it's taken long for their district and area to get power back again. And we can recall in 1995, we had Hurricane Lois, and we were told, well, you know what, all the power lines will be on the ground. When there's the next storm, we won't have any problems. But apparently, that didn't happen, and a lot of people felt like it took real long to get the power back up in the areas. Is there any reason why GEBE up to now don't have, say, the 100% of all those power lines on the ground?
Okay, I can elaborate on that. It's like this, that at the moment in time, we have about 95, 96% of the high tension is still above, is on the ground. So we're talking about maybe a 4% in the area, certain specific areas as St. Peter's, talking about high tension right now, 80 Elliott Road, Dutch Quarter, right, that are middle region also. Those are the areas that are still high tension. And besides the high tension, low tension. So if we go back to the older areas, St. Peter's, South Ward, you can get
areas in Colby also.
Colby, Point Blanche. Those are the areas that the low tension is still above ground. And a rough calculation would name it about 55% roughly that we believe that is on the ground, and we still have about 45% that still needs to be done. At this moment in time, we have all areas, new projects. We make sure that those areas are all going underground. High tension and low tension is going underground.
So is it safe to ask then, we're now in the beginning of 2015, is it possible that we can have all of those areas on the ground by, say, the next hurricane season or by August of 2015?
Well, you know, together with the supervisor, we made an investment plan for the next 5 years. Okay. And this is one of the priorities. And we need to get all stakeholders there aboard with us, because if we focus on the main areas, for instance, if I take, for instance, Dutch Quarter, middle region, we need to get the support from government also that we can have this. I believe we have it already, but we also have to make it that we have a dedicated team dealing with that. GEBE, for the last 2 years, GEBE had to focus on its own internal processes that we become much more efficient. Remember, we had quite a bit of challenges. I could recall in 2011 where one of the biggest expenses that a company has is fuel, and whereas we operated 50% HFO, 50% LFO, and whereas the consumers had to pay that high electricity bill and things like that. So these are the areas that we see we have to bring down these laws and become much more efficient as a company. So it is a process. We believe that with the plan that we have right now, we can accomplish this within the next 3 to 5 years. It's going to entail quite a bit of work, but we believe it can be done.
It's part of the budget to put everything on the ground that has been budgeted, as Mr. Maduro said, and therefore we definitely, that will be something of the past. It's in the 5-year plan, put everything on the ground, high tension and low tension.
One of the problems I noticed dates back for a long time before Mr. Maduro time is a problem with transformer houses on private properties, etc. Have you all been able to resolve that problem?
Well, at this moment in time, we are getting the cooperation from the different consumers, landowners, and things like that. It's going much more better, but of course, as St. Martin keep on expanding, becoming much more greater, we need to place them in I would say, in vital areas of projects and things like that. For new projects, it goes okay. If we have existing developments already, it can be sometimes a challenge where you would have expansion, whereas people already live there, and it's difficult sometimes to get the cooperation and have the land available, you know. But nevertheless, we appeal on the public to assist us with this because it's going about the community.
You know, and one of the things is that, and maybe you all can explain this for the public, GEBE is a power company, but there's also water distribution. And the water production and distribution, you want to explain that and ownership there, because I think the consumers don't sometimes understand that.
Okay, I'll take lead. GEBE has a electricity concession, meaning say the production and the distribution is in hands of GEBE. Water has been as I would say, a responsibility that is from government, and GEBE has done that in the previous years. I believe in 1995, when I was still in GEBE, they came with this plant. I believe it was a inner serve plant, and they did the production, and meanwhile GEBE did the distribution of that. With time, at this moment in time, it is Airfin that takes care of the production of water. They produce on a daily basis roughly about 15,000 tons of water. And this is where you can see that where St. Martin grew from a simple 8,000 to 15,000 within the last, I would say, the last 15 to 20 years. So there's quite a bit of development there. At this moment in time, we are busy with Airfin, where they're going to have a next plant in Point Blanche. So we hope within the next, I would say, next few months that we have this plant installed, and that will bring up the production capacity of the plants to roughly about, I believe, maybe 25,000 or a little more tons of water per day.
But I know after Hurricane Gonzalo, there was some problems there where people could not get water for quite some time. That was a result of what, basically?
Okay, that was a result of certain preventive maintenance that had to take place. So we had certain tanks out of operation.
Oh, okay.
As you know, the main objective for us was to make sure we have a good operation. The information that we had received prior to Hurricane Gonzalo hitting St. Martin is that a storm category, tropical storm is going to hit St. Martin. And it was still afterwards that, shortly after that, or very close to when the hurricane, when it came, we got the information that is a hurricane. So at that moment in time, you make a certain, I'll say, a certain schedule based on the information. Yes. Now, if you get to hear that a hurricane is coming, of course, it makes it a little more different. And the plan that was done is that Airfin, they, out of precautionary measures, they took up preventive measures, and they stopped one of their plants for that. And I know that the other plants, they had their certain challenges also because, you know, most of the plants get seawater they get their feed water from the seawater. So that means to say that if there's also rough sea, they're going to have their challenges also.
Yeah.
You know, but that's something that we also say we're going to work on, and that we have enough storage capacity here. So before the end of the year, we had 2 tanks that were built, and one right now is put in operation already, and the next one we hope to have it there in operation within the next few, I would say, maybe week and a half.
Oh, okay. Is there really a big change in management in GEBE? The reason I say we have Mr. Richardson, who is a chairman of the supervisory board of directors, and Mr. Maduro, who is president of the managing board. I've never heard of the managing board before, so I don't know if Mr. Richardson want to explain what's...
Yeah. No, the daily operations is run by the managing board.
Okay.
The supervisory board, the directors of the supervisory board gives directions to management. But really we have very little to do with the operations. We have to give directions, and management should follow those directions, and we give advice.
Right.
But really to go deep into the operations of the company, the supervisory board has nothing to do with that.
That's
It
Mr.
says
Maduro.
supervise. So, of course, Mr. Maduro needs a lot of approval for different things. Based on the articles of incorporation, he has there are limitations where he has to work within the scope of those articles of incorporation, and that is all spelled out clearly in the articles of all the government-owned companies. And therefore, the supervisory board, as I said, has their task cut out for them to supervise the management of the company, give directions. And of course, the main thing where we give direction is the budget of the company, which is of course the whole operation, the capital expense budget, the operational budget has to be approved by the supervisory board.
What about, I understand there was a time when there was some arguing that they should have 2 or 3 directors running the day-to-day operation of the company. Is that still the case? Or?
Well, in the case of GEBE, we have the president of the board, who at this moment is chief operating officer.
This is Mr. Maduro.
Mr. Maduro. You have another gentleman who just took on as a CFO, chief financial officer. And there's a space also now for a chief executive officer. Those are the 3 people that are supposed to run the company.
Okay.
The chief executive officer. We are in the process of trying to get someone for that position, but we didn't finalize that as yet. But we're going to have a solution for that within short, because we, as Mr. Maduro mentioned, we have a 5-year investment plan, and that plan is very important for the price of the electricity for the public of St. Martin. Very important. We're going to go most probably to different. We're looking at renewable energy. We're looking at the heavy fuel oil, the gas oil, and the prices of those things. So it's very important. But as the technical part, Mr. Maduro can elaborate some more on. But definitely, we are looking for renewable energy, and so that we can drop the price.
But right now,
of the electricity for the people.
Right now, it seems that a lot of people are not happy with the fuel clause. In fact, in today's paper, there are many letters about the fuel clause and GEBE. So maybe you all can address that issue, because a lot of people don't understand why the fuel clause is so high, and now the fuel is going down in the international market.
The crude oil is going down.
In the international market. GEBE, according to many people, still have a fuel clause that is in relations to what we've seen on the international market with fuel, crude oil.
With gasoline.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Maduro would take the lead on that.
Okay. Mr. Gibbs, it's like this, that I think it's good to go back in time, Most utility companies had one rate, and you can understand if the fuel price remains fairly constant, you don't need to adjust that rate, because you cover all the expenses. You're not going to put your company in a financial negative position. But what we realized, if we go back 6 years ago, the fuel price keep on climbing, and based on that, we found ourselves with challenges, whereas many companies had to go back to government and ask them, listen here, I need to adjust the price because I cannot survive based on that. So I know in 2012, just before the new managing board set in, government approved that the tariff would be split up in two components, base rate and a fuel clause.
Yeah.
In that fuel clause, what you basically have in it is the expenses of the fuel and lube oil that GEBE has used for that specific month. So don't forget, what we use for this month will be billed in the month of February. So that is in a fuel clause. Besides that, there are also additional expenses that are also incorporated into the fuel clause, because the fuel clause doesn't only cover those expenses for fuel and lube oil, but they also look at other aspects. People that are talking about theft of electricity.
Still happening,
if theft of electricity takes place, it will also increase your fuel clause.
You have a lot of that for the...
Right now, we have a better grasp on the situation, because what we did is we have inspected all, you could say roughly about close to 20,000 meters on St. Martin. And yes, we bring it down. We have brought it down to an acceptable level, but of course, there's always room for improvement. Forget, people that do not pay on a timely manner will also affect the fuel clause. So there's a certain aspect in it that is GEBE.
Explain that, whether, please, is important when you say people that do not pay on a timely manner. Explain.
Well, okay. The fuel clause is basically the amount of fuel and lube oil used.
Right.
To produce the electricity.
Yeah, to produce that electricity. And there's another component, I would say the billed revenues to the consumer.
Okay.
So, with other words, within GEBE, the part of the fuel, we have to make sure and operate as efficient as possible. We have to make sure if fuel price goes up, it also affects that fuel clause. It also goes up. But there's another aspect of billing. If people that thief electricity, that would also increase the fuel clause. So with other words, the people that steal electricity would have to be covered by you and me who are paying the bill. And to a certain extent, it is unfair. You have, for instance, also people that do not pay the bill, or people who have, for instance, a payment plan. Okay. It also affects that. So it's not one aspect that GEBE alone is, I think the community need to understand, and I believe they need to get explanation of that, what it really entails.
So you're saying that it also involves people that are paying late or have payment plans with GEBE. All of this affects the fuel clause.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Because maybe I can simply put, Mr. Maduro explained it very well, but you have what you call the counter and the denominator. The counter is the fuel and the lube oil. And the expenses, of course, GEBE has, production costs, of course, personnel expense, everything in there to produce the electricity. That's the end product. Now you got, it's in relationship also to the denominator, as we say in Dutch, number. That would be the total revenues billed to the people. And if you bill revenues and what we say the net sales, and you do not get the money for it, or if you can only bill a certain amount because of theft, it influences the fuel clause. And I must say, although of course not in my, to my liking neither, the fuel clause in GEBE has dropped in the past 4 or 5 months, but dropped very, with about 6 cents. It has dropped in the last 4 months.
For the month this month, I've seen it drop the most. It's really low.
It's really low.
It is dropped, and it will drop more again. I mean, people will see this program. They'll say, "Oh, here they come with promises again." But again, as Mr. Maduro explained, what you pay for next month, what you use for this month, is billed to you next month.
But do you think people also don't understand that when they watch the news or they go to the internet and they hear, okay, a barrel of oil at $47, they don't realize what also affect cost is refining and transportation and all other factors.
Yeah, which we do not have in control. Mr. Maduro mentioned, for us to get a product of the fuel here, we have to pay freight. And don't forget, freight is very, very expensive. Freight isn't going down. oil prices going down, it got all the price. Heavy fuel went down also, with about 30%, 20 something percent. Low fuel, the gas oil went down also, because you see that at the pump also, but the heavy fuel, GEBE is the only client that uses that here, heavy fuel oil. That's it's the cheaper oil, but it's good for the engine, and it keeps the engine and everything based on preventive maintenance and so on, which is more technical, but I am repeating what Mr. Maduro has told me over the past 3-4 months, which I know, which I have learned in those 3-4 months. But the whole idea, Mr. Gibbes, is that we cannot control the freight. And in a matter of fact, our supplier wants to increase the freight, and we keep telling them, no, we have to be real hard and try to fight them not to increase the freight. Here we go. So that's all part of the fuel clause, what we call marketing differential. We have to pay that also. Throughput charges, which is known to everybody here. Even the gasoline has that on, that we have to pay a certain amount to the harbor to get that fuel here. So it's very, very important that the fuel clause is not only one component, the crude oil, but as you say, refining and everything. And the big problem is the freight. We do not have how you call it, a refining in our background. We have to bring the oil from all, and Mr. Maduro will tell you later, it's based on the postings, the Caribbean posting, the East Caribbean posting, it's based on all these different components.
I was looking at the Caribbean posting seems to be higher than anywhere else.
Yeah, well.
Why is that?
Okay. It's good that we also explain that, the contract that we have with Sol is based on the lowest Caribbean posting. Now, if I go to the Eastern Caribbean posting, we are here in the Caribbean, and we work with Eastern Caribbean posting. There are different postings. They have Platts, they have Eastern Caribbean posting, they have Gulf, you have postings in Europe. But here, you got to focus on the Eastern Caribbean posting. The Eastern Caribbean posting, it consisted of Petrotrin, that is the posting from the refinery from Trinidad. You had Shell West, you also had Texaco, and I believe you had other postings in that. The agreement, so that means to say, if and when they bought fuel from any one of the others, the contract would stipulate you have to focus on the lowest Caribbean posting. So any one of those 4 or 5 that had the lowest price, we got it at that price. Guess what? Texaco is not there anymore. Yeah. Shell is not there anymore. The only one that remained is Petrotrin.
Petrotrin, yeah.
So you're buying from one person?
So basically, I have one posting. Yeah. And this is the agreement that we have with the fuel supplier. So besides that, as Mr. Richardson brought forward, you have the posting price, which we can't do nothing about. Besides that, you have the freight rate. Yeah, freight charges. The marketing differential, the throughput fee. The marketing differential and the freight rate, that's determined by Sol, which is a third party. So, and GEBE have to pay all these things here based on our scale of economics. And we would like to try to get it here at a reasonable price, but these are the challenges that we have. So what we say, what we don't have a control of, let's start working on the things that we do have a control of. Let's become much more efficient and operate as much as possible on the cheaper fuels, which is the heavy fuel oil. But it is good for the people to know that the crude prices, the derived products, which is the gasoline, the heavy fuel, or basically the fuel oil, and the gas oil, these you will see them dropping, but not as fast as, for instance, the crude oil is dropping. Yeah. And these are the challenges that we face. So the fuel expenses is as Mr. Richardson brought it is a pass-through to the consumer. And it have many factors where we don't have no control of.
It's also very tricky because you can have refineries who decide to cut back production, although the price of oil on the international market is going down per barrel, and that will keep costs high because you cut down on production at the refineries, you know what's going to happen. And those are all factors. But some people are saying, well, why is it that GEBE is still staying in this heavy fuel and not going over to a lighter fuel?
Well, lighter fuel is more expensive.
I know.
Yes, it's much more expensive. So we're talking about at least 25 to 30% much more expensive.
And what about the environment? It's called the environmentalists will say, well, you know, where the lighter is better for the environment.
Yes, I agree with you. Listen, if we talk about the carbon footprint, we already know that operating on heavy fuel with a sulfur contents of 2 or maybe 3%, we do not comply with the environmental rules and regulations.
So then we'll have to pay more money, and I don't think more people want to pay more money for lighter fuel.
That's why we had many lengthy discussions. We have to start thinking on the environment, but we also have to look at means to bring down the electricity bill to the consumers. Yeah. So this is where we are looking at the possibilities of operating on gas. Gas is LNG and LPG. It is available, but of course, we are looking for the, hopefully we get the right deals where we can have these products here. Now, these products are LPG and LPG. They're also derived from crude. So, but at the moment in time, the price in LPG is fairly much, it looks very much attractive. That's cooking gas. LNG is a product, is also very economical, but the storage is challenged because it is a cryogenic gas. So that means it's a gas that in order to transport, you have to freeze it minus 160 degrees in order to transport it. And once it comes to the plant, there you have to reheat it up in order for it to be burned in the units. So we are eagerly looking at the possibilities there that we can limit the carbon footprint, so limit the emissions going out, but also have an economical price here for the consumer.
If you do that, would you have to modify the engines that you have now, or they will remain?
Okay, for the units that I have actually right now, should I operate on LNG, I can modify it to dual fuel.
Okay.
And this can be done. The engine manufacturer has such let's put it as a kit where you can have this done. And for LPG, at this moment in time, the engine manufacturers are eagerly looking at the possibility to operate the units on LPG. They're still busy in testing phase.
Okay, and I know I have to go to a quick break, but I have to ask you all quickly. Some people are also saying, well, why don't GEBE buy fuel on its own and store it? Is that possible? I don't.
It is a possibility. It is a possibility. But again, I would say GEBE's main core business is the production of electricity and also distribution of electricity and water. We can look at these possibilities. Yes, that means to say we have to become specialists in that area also, but it is something that we can look into.
And big investments is involved in these things.
Yeah. You have to build a fuel farm and all of that, right?
Exactly, fuel and the storage tanks and everything. So it's easier said than done. But but as Mr. Maduro said, we are looking at all these possibilities, and I am confident that within that 5-year period of the capital investment plan that we have, which of course the public will be informed about that when everything is well put together. It's put together. We have to get approval from the shareholder. Once that is done, we are of course in discussion with the shareholder because a lot of money is involved. We're talking about a lot of money. And therefore, once that is done, definitely I'm convinced that the price is going to go down. Okay. We are convinced. It's not just talk. You know me, OJ, I do not like talking. I like actions. And Mr. Maduro knows that too. He's also a man of action. He has worked in the plant for 10 years in operation, so he knows what it means. And every day he hears the cries of the people, and we know that it's high. But I am confident, and I just said a while ago, that the fuel class, it's going on next month again, and we have the relief for the 62 plus folks. That is a help. We also have the general relief. I think that the people maybe have seen that too. I also heard a lot of people saying that my bill has dropped. From one lady told me her bill was $90-something now. She paid 50-something. Yeah. She says it was like a miracle. Maybe that was a lady that got maybe a part of the relief. But we are looking to give everyone a relief, and I am confident, I repeat again, I'm confident that this will definitely take place within a year or two.
All right, I'll tell you what, we have to go to a break. When we come back, we'll continue speaking right here on Oral Gibbs Live.
At Nagico, the things that matter to you matter to us. Like knowing you're fully covered after an accident, the security of your home and everything in it that means so much to you. And knowing that even when the weather does its worst, you and your family are covered. At Nagico, we're about much more than just insurance. We're about the big things and the small things that mean everything.
Comparison with the
Welcome back to
comparable-
Oral Gibbs Live. I'm here speaking with Mr. Rennie Richardson. He is the chairman of the Supervisory Board of Directors for GBE, and Mr. Maduro, who is president of the managing board of GBE. And we're here speaking with them about GBE, our local electricity and water production company. And you know, I've seen new engines over the years being installed. The capacity of GBE has increased quite a bit, right? Are we have sufficient power to maintain capacity for, say, the next 4 or 5 years?
Okay. At this moment in time, yes. GEBE has about 80 megawatt installed, of which 70 megawatt is basically heavy fuel oil engines, and the remaining is gas oil engines. We try to operate as much as possible on heavy fuel, and as stated earlier by the chairman, it is a much more cheaper product, okay? Of course, it's not the one that's most environmentally friendly, but it is the cheaper product. Now, our views that if we really want to reduce, I would say, the electricity bill, many people have views that they can go over to renewable energy. We believe gas is the solution. Whether it is LPG or LNG, that is the solution. Renewable energy on a small island, it has its challenges, but it's not going to drop it that drastically.
It's very costly.
Correct. Correct. It's very costly. And if you look at our pricing that we have, just to give a comparison, before this, I would say the drop of electricity, of crude oil, sorry. GEBE produces and sells electricity at roughly about 32, 33 US cents per kilowatt hour. Guess what? You go to Curacao, what has solar, it has wind, almost about 30 megawatt wind installed, solar almost about 10 megawatt.
In Curacao?
In Curacao.
Wow.
And they have electricity at about 45 US cents per kilowatt hour. Bonaire, what has 15 megawatt in wind turbines, which is almost 90 to 90% of the total production. They are also at roughly about 45 cents.
Was that
Kilowatt, yeah.
Per kilowatt hour, US cents per kilowatt hour. It's just going about that you have an indication. When you go to Anguilla, 45 US cents per kilowatt hour. You go to US Virgin Islands, 50 US cents per kilowatt hour. You go to islands, countries like Jamaica, 50 US cents per kilowatt hour.
And we're at 25, you said?
We're at 32, 33 US cents per kilowatt hour. This is before the entire reduction of the crude prices and things like that. So yes, we have a way to go, but we're not all to the back, and we have a lot of catching up to do. We're right now, you could say, as efficient as possible, but we need to go over to new technology in order to have a dramatic reduction of the electricity bill.
I know Mr. Richardson was telling me about the employment at GEBE, and the numbers are quite impressive.
Yes. I mean, GEBE, of course, I did a little research. I think GEBE is the second largest employer on the island after government. GEBE has 300 plus employees plus contractors working for GEBE. That's a big chunk of the workforce in St. Martin. Don't forget, each worker have a family, so the responsibility that lies on GEBE for the workers is very, very, very high, a high responsibility. And therefore, when we're talking about lowering the prices of electricity, we have to also think on the company. When we're talking about, and I realize that people do not want to hear about the company has to stay afloat and not go belly up, as Mr. Maduro used the word a while ago. The company has to stay afloat to be able to protect the economy of St. Martin. 300 plus employees and family. We have to look at that. We have to look at that group also. And I think workers working at GEBE, they are well taken care of. They have, and we want to continue that. You don't want to have people working for you and they are not contented.
Right.
And that's why we have to not only think, and people just have to realize also that the fuel price and all these different components, and how do we get to electricity? We have to buy all these stuff. We do not have none of that here in St. Martin. And therefore, to get the electricity that comes in and make that lie there, we have to pay. And at the same time, we have to think on the company and think on the people who are working for the company. So it's a complex responsibility that Mr. Maduro has on his back, of course, that the supervisory board has to deal with, and we have a lot of things to look after. Of course, we are looking at the fuel clause. And I'm going to say again, I'm confident that it will go down as long as we looking at these alternative energy and the plans that we have for the coming 5 years.
You know, I also noticed that a lot of people on this island, two things, they either don't want to invest in efficient machinery, equipment. You mentioned the lights. These are state-of-the-art lights you see there. And they have saved us enormous amount of money over the years. When we made an initial investment, it was over $8,000. We could have gone replaced them with a $300 light that would blow every 200 hours and had to be replaced, etc. We made a huge investment. It is paying off for itself. Our electricity bill is very, very low. My good friends at GEBE always come and check my meter to make sure I'm not stealing.
Yeah.
But,
surprising, yeah.
But because they can't understand how, and we have an air conditioner run 24/7, 365 days a year to maintain the humidity and everything stable in this environment.
Yeah.
But again, the investment being made in efficient equipment makes a big sense. And I tell people sometimes, I've said it to Mr. Maduro, and I also said to the late Mr. Julius Lambert, is that we have a lot of consumers who also waste energy. And if you waste it, you got to pay for it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people go and buy these flat screen television, they sit down at home for 7-8 hours a day. That's a lot of energy burning there.
Mr. Maduro can elaborate a bit on that. GEBE is also looking at that direction also.
Well, you know, one of the future, I would say, one of the visions that we have right now is that we need to be a role model. We need to educate the people, the community. And we are also taking lead and trying to bring in new technology. Like I said, we are busy with this 2 megawatt solar project there that we hopefully want to get off the ground within the next few weeks.
2 megawatt?
2 megawatt solar project. So yes, we had quite a bit of negotiation, and we believe we reached the last phase right now, whereas once it is presented and it is approved by the supervisory board, we can roll this out. But GEBE, like I said, GEBE role has changed. It is not the same role as many years ago where we just follow the demand, we buy a new engine, we just expand on the distribution grid, and we say, okay, that's it. No. Renewable energy, we cannot stop that process, and we don't want to stop the process. As a matter, we need to embrace that new technology, and because of that, we need to change our role. We need to manage energy. So we need to go over to energy management, whereas we would have different people that produce electricity, and we need to know how to manage this. In order to manage this, you need to have smart metering, of which we already have on the island. Here and there, we have these digital meters that are smart. They can communicate direct. You have different possibilities. Even someone that tries to tamper with the meters, we will get an indication, and we can eventually disconnect them. These meters also have the possibilities of post-payment, but also prepayment. So in other words, a consumer can manage their expenses on a monthly basis much more better. Yeah. We want to go over to gas. We have a project right now with Telem where we're talking about smart neighborhood, a neighborhood where you get fiber to the door, you can read your electricity and water meters.
Can we have it tomorrow?
Well, we're busy with it. We're busy with it.
Excited. I want to see that soon.
So there's certain things we are busy with, and of course it might be in the background and it's not maybe mentioned, but we're busy with this, and we want to roll it out in 2 areas. And once we have gotten the right formula, gotten the right equipment, iron out all technical issues, then we can say, hey, we can roll it out in a mass production. And to really explain where we're going to, the direction that we're going with GEBE is, we want GEBE to be a leading company within the Caribbean, but we also want St. Martin to be a leading country within the Caribbean. Coming back to what Mr. Richardson said, the main driver for the economy of the main pillar for our economy is tourism. The driver for that, there have been many lengthy discussions. I believe my good friend at the harbor, Mark, would envision that the harbor is much more important. Regina would say that the airport is much more important. Telem Group would also say, yeah, they're much more important. But listen, if the lights are not on, guess what? You don't have none, and no tourists coming, and we need to understand all of that, that role there. Our views is right now, GEBE should be looking at the possibility to have diversification of revenues. New revenue streams we want to be looking at to make the company much more financially stable.
That's right.
And again, if GEBE stands good, you have a strong economy on the island. Your tourism is good. And we need to understand that. Again, telecommunications, might have different views about it, but that is the main objective, because remember, water is right now a primary necessity, and electricity, right now, it has going into direction of becoming a primary necessity, because people cannot sleep without the air conditioning.
Right. Well, I have to go to a break, but I'll say one thing. Having Mr. Richardson as chairman of the supervisory board of directors, I can tell you, he's a man of action, so he's going to make sure that happens.
Thank you.
We're going to have to go to a break. Right back. Please stay with us right here at Oral Gibbs Live.
Whatever your dreams are, GEBE Personal Loans and Mortgages can finance your wishes. We offer loans for mortgages, home remodeling, home appliances, vehicles, generators, hurricane shutters, weddings, education, and much more. Visit your preferred branch or GEBE Personal Loans and Mortgages located at Pine Plaza, Bush Road, or call 542-2313. The Windward Islands Bank Limited, your partner in progress.
At SXM, we're taking travel and tourism to new heights. Here we boast spacious check-in areas, 10 passport control points, comfortable departure lounges, and an exciting new airport mall. Finally, there's an airport in the Caribbean that takes your travel plans as seriously as you do. Princess Juliana International Airport.
You're watching Oral Gibbs Live, and my guest this evening is Mr. Richardson. Mr. Richardson is the chairman of the supervisory board of directors for GEBE, and Mr. Maduro, Engineer Maduro, is president of the management board for GEBE, and we're here to speak with him about the company and everything else. You know, GEBE has come a long way. Let us not make no mistake about it. I remember the days when we had electricity going off very, very often. People complaining a lot. The only complaint you hear right now basically is that the fuel clause. So.
Well, it gone a long way. GEBE will be celebrating its 55th anniversary this year in September. But they have a lot of activities planned. We want to keep it low key because of the fact that, you know, there's a lot of, we're trying to get this investment plan off the ground. And of course, we're going to have a lot of activities. The community will be involved. But we have come a long way. 55 years in existence, GEBE has been on St. Martin. So I know you mentioned about the different economical ways to, you know, burn electricity and so on. Don't forget we have street lights, LED street lights. which is also government has to. We have to supply that
in
for
the
the
plan too?
community.
Okay.
We have LED street lights already, right, Mr.
Correct.
Maduro?
Correct.
Oh, yeah?
We have LED street lights right now. I've been testing it since I would say ending last year.
What area?
Pondfield Road
Huh.
up to, so from, you could say from the Sunday School up to Starmar gas station.
Oh, okay.
So we have those lights there, and we want to keep on investing and replacing the present type of lighting to the LED. Because
Can
there
save
we
a lot of
believe.
money.
So it's yes, it's quite a bit of things that we're doing. Like I said, we also need to change our way of thinking. We need to change our attitude, and this is what we're busy with. And at the end of the day, it's going about serving the community. We know that we have a social and corporate responsibility towards the community. And if it's not for the consumers, we are nothing. So of course, GEBE is not a profit-making company. It's a government-owned entity. What needs to have monies for future investments, and that's what we try to focus on.
You also have quite a large loan, right? Still.
Correct. At this moment in time, the honest loan that we would have right now is a loan for the two newest units that we got there in 2010. And as I brought forward, right now, we're not looking at new unit, but we're looking at renewable energy, investing into that we can lower the carbon footprint, that the consumer can also see that, listen, we have this large project also on St. Martin, not only on the other neighboring islands, but also on St. Martin. And I think one important thing is on St. Martin right now, we have quite a bit of challenges. It's not going about solving a problem on your own, but it's going about having a strategic alliance. We have been working with TELEM since the ending of 2012, and we have some new projects we hope to roll out together with TELEM as soon as possible in order to make our companies, both companies, efficient and lower the operation costs.
Yeah, and the benefit will, of course, be passed on to the consumer. That's the whole objective of these investments. You know, gas turbines and things like that. And therefore, as I said, I'm confident that this will take place within a year or two.
So at least we have to be patient and wait for certain things to happen.
Well, you know how fast time flies.
Right,
So
yeah.
we could say it today, and within clip of the finger, 2 years is here. So we are working on them and diligently, definitely, and I'm confident it will really happen.
Is this going to cost over, say, 100 million?
Definitely, you brought up a good point there, OJ. Very good. Don't forget the waste to energy plant that is in the planning. We have to get rid of that mess there. You know, the dump.
Yeah.
You cannot continue with the dump being there. So is an investment already that's going to cost over $100 million. Dollars or guilders,
Yes.
Mr. Maduro?
$120 million.
Yes.
So as Mr. Richardson brought forward, these are not small investments. They're quite huge investments. And we made a certain roadmap, whereas we need to make sure that we make these investments on a timely manner.
Yes.
And it requires quite investments. So yes, we have not spoken as yet of the how we're going to finance this, but we need to present the plan to government.
Yeah. Waste to energy is number one priority on the list. We have to get rid of the dump. We cannot continue like that, and we do not have the space. So we're going to waste to energy. It says it. The waste, we're going to make energy out of it. And GEBE is, you know, we have space in GEBE. We were thinking on doing the plan there first, but now we are thinking on putting everything in GEBE. And the garbage, we truck the GEBE in the night. And that way we clean up our you know, it's a challenge, as Mr. Maduro said on various occasions during the interview. But OJ, really, I seen it happening. The waste to energy project is going to happen, and it's all in the planning, and I am confident that it will really, really happen.
I really hope it can happen within short, in terms of 2 or 3 years, because we really need it.
Yes,
Correct.
Yes. We cannot continue with that, with waste being there.
Okay.
Being placed there.
Well, you know, gentlemen, I'm surprised the time is going so fast. So I'm going to give each of you 30 seconds in closing. Mr. Maduro first here, and then Mr. Richardson.
Okay. Well, I hope it's the matter of the fuel clause that it has clarified certain, I would say, thoughts that the consumer has. Our prices is determined by SOL based on the posting, and there are certain other expenses that come on top of that. So at the end of the day, that GEBE doesn't have any profit on that. So furthermore, all our figures are audited and controlled by government. So like I said, if we could have gotten the best price at SOL, we would have. But of course, we're looking right now at the possibility to having a much more attractive fuel.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Maduro. And Mr. Richardson?
Yeah. You know, it's clear GEBE is a government-owned company, and that's what we have to focus on. It belongs to the people of St. Martin, and we have to do and take care of everything in the best interest of all the people of St. Martin, the workers of GEBE included, and we definitely are heading towards getting these things done and not just talking alone. And I'm sure that things will happen soon, OJ. You will be surprised. Things will happen soon. There's a whole big plan, an investment plan, and the shareholder will roll it out. Not the supervisory board, of course, together with managing board will present it to the shareholder, and the shareholder will roll it out because eventually the shareholder is the government, and they are the owners of the company.
Well, thank you for coming. And I said before, knowing you and knowing the kind of person I know is going to happen along with Mr. Maduro. So I want to wish you all, Mr. Maduro and Mr. Richardson, also success and all the best for 2015.
Thank you very much, OJ,
thank you very
and
much.
also all the best to the people, and let's hope for the best for GEBE.
Thank you.
Correct. Okay.
Thank you. That's it for now. I'll see you next time. Until then, take care. Good night. Bye.